Hi. Okay, so we had a great question come up on the boards. How can we take a playlist and make it trigger one thing, one clip after another? So let's look at doing that, and let's look at how we figure out how to do new things in Max. Okay, so here's a playlist. Let's see if we can resize it a bit. So we see up there in the clue window, it's telling us it's a playlist. And let's just drop a couple things in there. So I'm going to go into playing mode. And what do I like? I like that little drum sound. So I'm going to drop that in. There's a nice waveform. I'm going to grab another sound though. Whoops. I mean sounds. How about one of these kind of talky samples? There's one called Talk. I'll drop that in on the bottom so I have more than one. I'm going to also put in something called Sparkle because I was playing around with that. There's a little sparkly sound. See, if I do this, I clobber it and I replace it, but I can just add to the playlist like that. Okay, so now I've got a playlist. Now I want to make music with this. I want this to be able to be something I hear. So I'm going to go back into edit mode and I'm going to add a new object. So I type N and I'm going to put a gain guy in here. Let's resize him up so it looks nice and fat. And then I'm going to do an easy DAC. And that just takes care of turning this digital information into audio signals. Okay, so here's the left hand side and the right hand side, and the information comes pouring out from there. Okay, so now I can play one of these guys and edit the volume and
对不起，我能跟你说几句话吗？
okay, so there they are coming out. Okay, so let me pause here because this guy isn't looking right. I only have sound coming out of one side of the speakers. That's because I have to take the sound signal and run that into the second. Okay, let's try this again. There we go. Now
对不
it's
起，
coming.
我能跟你说几句话吗？
Yeah, now it's coming out of both sides. Okay. All right, so this is basically the structure. But what we wanted to do is say, you know what, it would be nice if when this ended, this one just immediately started. We can turn on loop, and then this one just keeps playing over and over. But what we'd like to do is have them trigger one after the other. So the place to start is to just look at what outputs you have down here on the bottom. Okay, so let's see, I've got this guy here, and that says that's where the signal's coming out. All right, like channel 1, right, left signal. Here's the right signal coming out. So those are both pieces of just the audio signal. Then there's something here that says I'm a signal, and I'm the sync output. So, okay, whatever. This guy says I'm playback notifications. I don't know what that means either. This guy says I'm a dictionary with content. So let's just start looking at these things. So the first guy is a signal. So I'm going to add a scope, which is the type of thing that looks at signals. It's an oscilloscope. You wouldn't know this yet, right? This isn't stuff you should have known. This is just stuff we're learning. Okay, so we're going to look at that there. The next thing says I'm a playback notification. So let's just make a message and let's have this guy show us what's in that box as information comes pouring out. And then this guy says I'm a dictionary. So there's an object called view the dictionary. Dictionary is like a dictionary, right? You have a word and you look it up and there's a definition. So there's word, definition, word, definition. So a dictionary is information like that. And we're going to size that up. Okay, let's just do a run. Oh, look at what we have already. Okay, so the dictionary has filled up with information about the 3 clips. It says, I know you have 3 clips, and here's clip 1. Here's where it lives on the hard drive, and the name of the file, the kind of the file, whether you're looping or not, how long it runs, what the selection part is, if we went in and just selected part of it, the sample rate it was taken at. So we've got that much information about every single one of these clips. So that's very handy. It doesn't really help me with the problem, right? Because I want to kind of run this, and when it's done, I want the next thing to happen. Let's see let's run one of
对不起，
these.
我能跟你说几句话吗？
Oh, so the signal is kind of going up and down, right? The signal says
对
I'm
不起，
running,
我能跟你说几句话吗？
and then I'm not running. So this is kind of handy, right? This is going to on and off. If we do this, there it is, it's up, and then it's down. Okay, that's interesting. But more interesting to me is this little message that just popped out. So let's watch this.
对不起，我能
It
跟你说
says
几句话
start
吗？
to, done with to. Ah, so as soon as one of these is done, out of this outlet pours a message that says I'm done. I'm done with clip 2, and the name of that was talk.aiff. Well, the only part I need is that kind of done. Because if you look up here, okay, the next place to go here is to right click on the outlet for this playlist object. It says, look, there are some attributes. There are some things you can change about how this looks and how it behaves. So I can change the color. I can change if it's looping or not. I can change the speed it runs at, time stretching, which we'll talk about. So those are all great, but I don't see anything that says don't loop, but go to the next guy. But this is the first place I would look. Okay, I would right click and I would look at all the attributes. Then I would look at what messages can it understand? What can it listen to? Clear, I don't want to clear things. You can send it a number and it'll go to that clip. Well, that might be helpful. Oh, look, next. You can send it the message next. So I would just say M to make a little message box and type in next. And if I send that message in here, okay, it's as I go to the next
对
one.
不起，我能
Go
跟
to the next one. Go to the next one. Go to
对
the
不
next
起，我
one.
能
Go
跟
to
你
the next one. Ah, so that's really helped us out. So now we know that there's a message called next for playlist. And if you send that message, it stops what it's doing, it jumps to the next one. We know we want to jump to the next one when we are done. So now comes the great example of what we'll do over and over in Max, which is take a message apart and use the pieces we want. So what I want from this message is the word done. All right, as soon as this message says done, then I know I want to say next. So I'm going to grab everything, pull it down, make a little space for myself, okay? So there's another object called, oops, I wanted to unlock, called route, depending on how you speak English, I guess. So I'm going to say, you know what? Take what comes out of this playback notification, and I'm going to do a Control-Shift-Y to make that look nicer, and send it in to this. This object says, look, I'll fire a bang down this outlet if the input matches the word done. Otherwise, if it doesn't match that, I'll fire this outlet. So if it matches, bang. And that's what I want. As soon as I see the word done here, I want to say next. So I'm going to connect those up, and let's try this out. Okay, I'm going to start playing this. And what I hope happens is when we get to the end, the message done drum bass comes up. That gets sent up here. It says if it equals done. Yeah, it does have the word done. So then it's going to say next, and it's going to jump to the next one. Let's try it. All right, it's saying start.
对不起，我能跟你说几句话吗？
There we go. Boom. So you don't even see done because as soon
对
as
不
it
起，
hits
我能跟你
done,
说几句话吗？
it gets the next message and it starts the next one. So that's
对不起，
done what we
我能跟
wanted
你
to
说几
do,
句话
except we
吗？
can't stop them. Right? Because if we hit stop, it stops
对不起，
quickly,
我能跟你说
but then it just starts again because the message feeds it back. So we're getting closer.
对不起，我能跟你说几句话吗？
Okay, so I'm gonna edit this. If you look at the messages I can
对不起，
send
我能跟你
here,
说几句话吗？
another message is pause and resume. So let's put those in quick before we go nuts.
对不起，我能跟你说几句
Okay,
话
I'm gonna
吗？
grab a pause message and wire that up
对不起，我能跟你说几句话。
and pause it. I'm going to toss in a resume message, M for message, resume. All right, and then we can have a pause and we can have a resume. So now we have some controls here, okay? We can pause, we can resume, and otherwise it'll like cycle its way through. Now remember, all of this comes from being able to work with the help files. If you hit this little guy here, you can go to the help files and you can see examples. But even beyond that, what I've shown you is a right click on the inlet is going to show you different ways that you can customize. So maybe I'd like to say the selection color. Okay, so now I have an attribute for that, and when I run it, I can say, you know what, I'd like the selection color to be this bright green. And then I can say, don't say the entire talkie part, just say this talkie part. Comes back up here, and now it's going to pick up here.
我能跟你说几句话。
And just run that section. And I could even do some stuff and make it really,
我能
right, or move this along.
跟你说。
Okay, let's pause that. So these selections, let's delete off that attribute. These are attributes, right? These, and there are some that are really handy. Like, I like one that's called time stretch. And let's just point out that we can change the speed of this guy. Okay, we can make it run faster or slower. When I change the speed, I'd really rather do that with a dial. So let me do a new object called dial. There's a little dial, okay. And I want dial to produce the message that has the number coming out of the dial, which is coming out of here, plus the word speed, because that's the message that has to go in here. So I'm going to use a object called prepend. Where's my new object? Oops, I didn't want number, I wanted prepend. Prepend, on the front, put the word speed. Okay, so I like knowing about that attribute, but the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to take a dial, big fat dial. I'm going to take the number and put speed on the end of it, and then I'm going to send that over. Okay, now what range should the speed be? Well, let's open up the inspector, and we want the speed not to go to 128, maybe 10 steps of 0.2. That'll give us 2 units and take us from -1 to 1. Good, let's close that out and just double check what this knob is feeding us now. There's -1 if you go all the way up 1. Okay, good, good, good. So what I'm going to do now is take this guy and change that so I'm not looking at the output from just the number. I want to see the output from the prepend speed object. And now I'm getting the word, the message, speed, and the number tacked in there, okay? So we're building up. So this is a lot of what happens in Max, right? We took a message and we broke it down, and we just wanted to look at the word done, and when that came, we wanted to do something, like send the next message. Here we have a dial giving us a number, and we want to tack a word in front of that number and send that message to the object. So we have objects sitting there with attributes, like they have certain colors and they have certain backgrounds, and messages that they can understand. So the rest of the language is all crazy to them, right? But everyone's like a dog, right? You hear woof, 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 blah, blah, blah. Fido, blah, 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 blah. Fido. You only understand certain words. It's like that with our objects. So playlist only understands certain words. And how you know which words it understands is because you look at that messages list. So you right click here, and here are the words it understands. So it understands next, and that's what we're building this whole exercise around, okay? So here's the message coming out, and we're sending it over there, and we're gonna have time stretch available, and I wanna show you how cool time stretch is. So let's lock it and fire this guy off. Oh, it's going backwards now. Why is it going backwards? Because the speed is negative. Okay, we've got this negative, really slow speed, which is another cool thing that you can have happen. Let's go
跟你
back.
说，
There's the drum hit. It's got some quiet at the
跟
end.
你说，
Okay, let's take this off.
对不起，我能跟你说几句话吗？
In fact, I might even put some.
对不起，我能跟你说几句话吗？
Let's just do a selection on here that.
对不起，我能跟你说几句话吗？对
I
不
don't
起，
need
我
so
能
much
跟你
weight
说
on
几
the
句
end of
话
that. We're
吗？
gonna do this.
对不起，我能跟你说几句话吗？
And
对
we're
不起，
also
我能
gonna.
跟你说几句话吗？对不起，我能跟你
There we
说
go.
几句话吗？
Okay, so now let's try playing
对不
with the
起，我能
speed.
跟你说几句话吗？
So I'm gonna drop the
对不
speed
起，我能
slower.
跟你说几句话吗？对不起，我能跟你说几句话吗？
Okay, that maybe is what I wanted,
对不
or
起，
maybe
我
not.
能跟你说几句话
So as the
吗？
speed is changing, the pitch is changing.
因为
And sometimes you
Maybe
want that
too,
because it's a
wouldn't it?
sound you're designing and you really like this monster noise or the growling of the tornado that you're putting into a film or something, okay?
你说几句话吗？
But you get the choice to have that
对不
happen
起，
or
我能
not
跟你说几句话吗？
by picking time stretch.
对不起，我能跟你说几句话吗？
Now, it's
对
slower.
不起，我能跟你说几句话吗？
But it's the same pitch voice.
对不起，我能跟你说几句话吗？
Whereas if we took time stretch off,
对不起，
we're way down here.
说几
Okay, so I'm gonna leave time stretch on. I'm gonna go backwards
好吗？回去都是你的微信呗。
just for some kind of
好吗？
fun.
回去都是
And
你的
hit
微。
pause. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, and I want to quickly go over. So the basics we started with were a playlist object going into gain tilde, going into an easy DAC. Okay, that's how you take music clips and play them in Max. Now, this has a lot of facility to it, right? You can do selections, you can do forward and backward by adjusting the speed, you can loop it if you want or not. It has a lot of smarts to it. How do you know what it can do? So you go into edit mode and you look at the attributes. The attributes will tell you, can you turn on loop or turn loop off? Can you change the colors? Can you show if the name of the file is shown or not? All of these are listed first as attributes. And then what will the object understand? What commands can it do for you? How can it perform and help you? And they're listed here as the messages, okay? So we learned from that we could send it a next message. And that's what we were interested in doing. But when to send it a next message? Well, we wanted to send it when it was done. When this clip is done, we wanted to send it on to the next one. So we said, well, what clues does it give us? What outputs are there? So there's the music coming out that we're sending. Okay, that's not too helpful. There's this signal that's 0, 1, 0, 1 if it's playing or not. And we could have done some manipulation with that and triggered the next parameter, the next clip. But there was this really handy message, and it told us the name of the clip, the name of the file, and if it was started or done. So we grabbed that up, peeled off the word done, and used, as soon as we saw done, we sent the message next. And by the way, this also has a dictionary, which gives you all kinds of information about each clip, every single clip, and we can break apart the dictionary and start using those individual pieces to control things. Okay, so this is a long answer to a pretty interesting but often occurring simple question. And the quick answer is just root and next. But it got us into a discussion of attributes like time stretch and using things like prepend and dials to build commands that'll change the speed of the playlist. So I hope you have time to look over some of this and expand how you're thinking about sound. Because remember, these clips are provided, but they could be any sound you can record on your phone. And you just drop that file onto your desktop and off you go. You can start processing it with Max. All right, so have a great weekend and we'll see you online.